everybody, this is Christina from Brush and Bristle Studio. Hope you guys are having a great day. I'm going to go over how to use this bone-shaped Christmas ornament mock-up. To get started, you're going to want to open this in Photoshop or Photopea. I believe that you'll be able to use this really in a majority of art programs. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. The main focus of my mock-ups is with smart objects, and not every art program offers smart objects. But there is another way that we can explore that you can still use it without any problems. So stick with me and I'll show you that stuff in a little bit. But we're going to go over how to do this in Photoshop first, and then I'll do another portion of the tutorial that I'll go over how to do it in Photopea, and it'll be very similar to this. There's just like a little change with how you will work with the smart object in Photopea, and that's really all I'm going to go over in the Photopea portion of it. So if you want to watch how you use this, stick around for this part. Okay, so with my mockups, you are going to look for this red tabbed layer, and this is our smart object layer. It's just a quick way to identify it. So if you guys will double click this, I do not have any designs like specifically made for this, so I'm just going to find a generic image to use in here right now. So navigate to the file that you would like to use. I'm just going to use a Tumblr design. Use a Milky Way. So I'm also going to treat this tutorial like I'm working with a newbie, someone who has no idea how to use Photoshop. So please keep that in mind as I'm doing this, because I'm trying to make this as easy as possible for everybody. So you want to get this image into your smart object document. To do that, you're going to want to first select all by doing Control A or grabbing this marquee tool, and then you can drag and drop it until you've got the whole document selected. And you'll know that the whole document is selected by all the marching ants on the sides. Once you see those, you can press Control C or go up here to Edit and press Copy. And then once you do that, you can close out of this and you're back in your smart object document now. So you can press Control V or go to Edit, Paste, and then I'll paste it in there. Now, as you can see, this is much larger than the canvas. So I'm going to put my move tool on so I can position this, and I'm going to press Control T or go to Edit, Free Transform. And this is going to give us these little anchor points all over. Now I like to get it centered, and you see those little pink marks that were showing up, that's showing you like where things are. So it's showing me that I am centered perfectly. Now, if you look up here, you've got width and height, and there's this little link right here. You see it's not selected, but I want to select that so I can resize all four sides at once. Now, I don't see the anchor points up here because they're like off the screen. I can scroll to them if I want, but I don't want to do that. So if I hover over like the width or the height, you see this like hand with the two pronged arrows. If you click and drag one way or another, it's going to resize in the direction that you want. So we want to take it down, and now I can see the anchor point, so I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to click this anchor point and bring it in, click this anchor point and bring it in. Now, you can also resize things one side at a time, and you do that by unlinking this. So you click that and see it's not highlighted anymore. I personally don't like going up here and clicking that on and off, so I will hold Shift down while I'm clicking on an anchor point, and I can drag and drop it, and it'll control just that one side, which is really nice. So I don't know about you guys, but I like how that looks, so I'm just going to leave it like that. I don't care that that side's over the line. Once you like it, you press that check mark, or you can press enter, and then you can press Control S to save, or go File, Save. And this is going to update the document for us. Now, I said that you could probably use this in another document, well, not another document, in another art program besides Photoshop and Photopea. So let's paste that file, that design file we just used. And if you see, I'll drag it to the top. It's already up here, and it's still really big. But we'll leave it right here for now. And I put it up above all my other folders just so you could see it. But I'm going to pull it back down here just above the Smart Object layer. So your Smart Object layer is here. And this is the design file we just pasted in. So if you hide that one, you can see the Smart Object layer. And then you've got this one. Now, if you're using a program that does not have Smart Object features, you can always do this. Just paste the design file you want above this Smart Object layer, and I have this mask right here so it won't go outside of the shape. I just prefer using Smart Objects because you don't have to worry about so much stuff. It just makes it quicker for me. I love Smart Objects. But you can go here and you can resize it and move it around however you want it to. And that's that. It's a quick, easy way to be able to use the Mockup outside of these two programs I'm mentioning. But we will delete that for now. I will show you some other little, changes and things that you can make in here to customize this more for your own mockups. To start, let's take a look at the highlights and shadows. We'll just do that first. So you've got a highlight, you've got shadow, and you've got gloss. If you click on these three, you'll see that they've got a blending mode, they've got opacity and fill. I would not recommend messing with these blending modes right up here. I'd leave those as they are, but you can mess with the opacity and the fill. So let's say you think that that highlight is too bright. So we can do what we did before, because you see that hand with the two-prong arrows. It's very hard to see, but you can just drag and drop right there, or you can press this little arrow and this drop down will appear, and you can drag and drop with that. Now I have it set really high to start off with, because when there's not a design, it's really hard to see any highlight. But once you have a design there, it really pops. So depending on the design, depends on how much the highlight and the shadow and stuff will appear. So that's something to think about as you're doing your designs. Sorry, I'm like being attacked by a bug. But that's how you do the highlights and shadows. And you can also do this extra highlights and shadows folder group up here. If you toggle this on, as you see, it kind of makes your shadows and your highlights pop a little bit more. I've got a couple filters in here. You've got a brightness contrast filter and a vibrance filter. You're more than welcome to mess with these as well. But just keep in mind that these are going to affect the entire document. So it's probably best to show you by if you double click on the icon itself. So like we'll double click on the sun, you see it pulled up the brightness contrast filter properties, and it has these two sliders in here. So if you take the slider and you start moving it around, you see it's affecting absolutely everything on this mock-up. So keep in mind when you are making these changes that they will affect absolutely everything in here. But you're welcome to play with those, make them however you need for your mock-ups. Now I've also got a drop shadow on here, and it works like the highlight and shadows. If you want to come up to opacity and mess with opacity and fill, you can do that. With all of my shadows, I typically go between multiply and linear burn. Because of the backgrounds that we were using, I chose to go with multiply, but if you want to play with putting it in linear burn right here, you can. Now with backgrounds, oh, one other thing is string. If you go up here to string, you've got your ribbon right there. And you've also got ribbon shadow. So again, if you want to mess with the opacity and fill on this, go for it. You've also got this feature right here. This is a color changing feature. So if you turn this on by clicking that, and then if you double click this color palette right here, it's going to open up your property panel for your hue saturation, and this will let you change the color however you need it. So first you want to make sure that this colorize box is checked. A lot of times I'll get messaged by people who are like, the color isn't working. And it 9 times out of 10 is because this colorize box is not checked. It can just randomly get undone on accident sometimes. So if it's not working, just remember to check that, and that'll probably be what is causing the problem. Once you have that checked, you can mess with the sliders, drag it wherever you want, whatever color you need. You can make it less saturated, more saturated. You can make it lighter, darker, whatever you need. But I wanted to give you guys plenty of options when you're doing this stuff. And you've also got, fix these, your backgrounds right here. And you've got 2 folders. You've got a Christmas backgrounds folder, and then you've got color option backgrounds. So let me go over the color option backgrounds really fast. This is just like with a string. You've got the hue saturation filter on. So if we turn this on, and let's double click this, colorize is on, but you can't really see it that well. So I'm going to make it a little bit darker just so we can see it for this exercise. Now, if we like hide white shimmer, you'll see that this color is going to apply to all of these backgrounds, which is really awesome. Now, I guess this is an exception for the blending options. If you go up here, you'll see that it's set to normal, but you can actually set this one to color, and you see that the color is like staying where color should be. And then you've got like white, lighter areas that you would normally see. So I really like having this hue saturation set to color, just so things look a little bit more natural as opposed to a full-blown color. But it's all about everyone's preferences. Everyone has different preferences for everything. So I just wanted to give you guys as much flexibility as possible. So that is how you make those changes to those backgrounds right there. And you've got these Christmas ones that you can do as well. So these are all of your background options for this mock-up. If you guys have any questions or need help with anything, please let me know. You can comment below, message me in my Etsy shop. I typically get back to people within a day. So if you need me, you can find me. If you are interested in seeing this in Photopea, stick around and I'll be back with you in just a moment. Okay guys, I'm going to go over how to use this in Photopea now. So as I said before, this is going to be very similar to Photoshop. So I'm not going to go over how to do all the same stuff I did in the Photoshop part of this tutorial because it's all the same. I'm only going to go over the things that are different, and it's really only what's pertaining to the smart object. So if you are skipping ahead to this part, make sure you go back and watch the Photoshop portion. But yeah, so Photopea is a free web browser based software that you can use. Kind of like how you go to Canva on your PC, you can go to Photopea by going to photopea.com, but you can also access it from an iPad or a phone. I love that I can work on my mock-ups at the pool. Or if I'm on vacation and I only have my iPad on me, I just pull up a Safari and go to photopea.com. With how this is set up, you could technically use it in Procreate. You could probably even use it in Affinity. I went over a method of doing that in the Photoshop portion of this, because I have this mask set up. So if you want to use those other programs, just go check out the Photoshop portion of this tutorial and it'll show you how you can do that. You can't use all of my mockups that way, because there are other features and things involved. Like with the tumblers, they've got a warp effect, and not all programs have a warp effect, but Photopea does, which makes it a pretty powerful tool. Because there's so many art programs out there that are free or are cheap to use, and they just don't have a wide enough range of features and tools that you can use. But this one's been very comparable to Photoshop, so I recommend Photopea to anyone who's looking for a free or cheap software that's comparable to Photoshop. So go to photopea.com. You don't need an account. It's free. Once you're here, open up the file and navigate to your smart object. Remember, it is the red tabbed layer. Double click that layer and it'll open up the file for you. Well, the document. So what makes it different from Photoshop is how we are working with the smart object. So in both, we're going to go to File. In Photoshop, you would click Open, but here we're going to click Open in Place. And now we're just going to go find a design to put in here right now. And if you watch the Photoshop portion, you see this gets put in here very different. When it is copied and pasted into Photoshop, it retains its actual size. But when we use Open in Place in here, it's going to constrain it to the proportion of your canvas. So we can resize it, because as you see, it automatically copied, pasted, and set to free transform. So those are like steps we don't have to take. We don't have to go click on a bunch of stuff to get to this point. But you do want to resize it to get it how you want. And you can do that by doing this. Or remember what we said about, darn, let's redo. Maybe it doesn't want to. Okay, let's go back to Open in Place. So now that it's in here, look up here, just like we would in Photoshop. You've got your width and your height, and you've got this link button that's highlighted. It's meaning that it's selected. We're going to uncheck that, and then you can drag and drop just this one side. But as you can see, it's really gonna start warping stuff if we do it like that. So what I would recommend is, all right, now it's showing the controls. If you have that highlighted, you can bring it out to the side. Oops. I'm being like uber butterfingers over here, pressing all the wrong things. So sorry, I'm like making this go longer than it should. But I want to bring down just this top part. So I can go up here and uncheck that, but that takes too much time. So I'm going to leave that checked, and I'm going to press and hold shift while I grab this anchor point, and then I'm going to drag it down. And as you see, it only messed with that one side. So let's say I'm happy with this. We're going to press this check mark, or you can press enter and turn that off. And if you go up here to file, you can hit save smart object or press Control S, and it will update your smart object for you. And there you go. So it's just a teeny weensy bit different than the process that we would do with the smart object in Photoshop. Nothing too crazy, so it's not that big of a deal. But I've had people message me before that have been like, well, I don't know how to get the file into the smart object, or I don't know how to update the smart object. So I wanted to make sure I covered how to do that, so you guys don't have to, worry about messaging somebody. I always hate having to come back and message people about how to do stuff, but you guys totally don't mind bothering me with questions. I'm here. I'm totally willing to help. If you have questions about Photoshop, Photopea, the mockups, whatever, even suggestions on how I can improve stuff, please feel free to contact me. You don't bother me one bit. You guys can comment below. You can message me in my Etsy shop, whatever. As I said earlier, I usually get back to people within a day. So you'll hear back from me pretty quick. But yeah, I hope you guys found this tutorial helpful and it helps you be able to use this mockup all right. And I hope that you enjoy the mockup and it does well for your business. But I hope you guys have a great day.